For a child who is autistic, school can lead to tremendous feelings of anxiety, isolation, bullying, and a belief that teachers don't understand them. Joining me in the studio to discuss Autism NI's successful campaign for mandatory autism teacher training for all teachers and classroom assistants in Northern Ireland is CEO for Autism NI, Kerry Boyd. Kerry, you're very welcome back to the studio. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Now, the campaign for the mandatory autism teacher training was successful after a long 3 years. Can you tell us how you're feeling about the outcome and how Autism NI are feeling as well?
Obviously, we're absolutely delighted at the motion being passed last Monday in Stormont. It's been 3 years of a campaign that we've had the full support of all of the teachers that we've spoken to, and obviously all of our parents too. The MLAs played a major role in that as well. They were speaking to their constituents over the past 3 years, and they know that this needs to be done. So we're absolutely delighted that it's went through, and that during the debate we got the full support of every single MLA in the Assembly.
Now, back when I was last speaking to you, we were talking about how the Department of Education back in June 2019 were saying that it would be premature to make mandatory autism teacher training. What do you think has changed in 7 months?
I think the MLAs, obviously Stormont being up and running again, and them speaking, as I said, to their constituents on the ground, and also speaking to the teachers, including the Ulster Teachers Union, who were in full support of this right from the very start. It was actually the Ulster Teachers Union who brought it to our attention 3 years ago in 2017, and they put an article into the Irish News calling for mandatory autism training, and it was from that article that Autism NI started the campaign and started working with other teachers and obviously the MLAs to try and get this put through.
Autism diagnosis over the last 6 years, I think, has doubled among kids at school. Can you tell us the kind of how that affects them and their families and school workers as well?
Well, obviously the school environment is where a child with autism will spend the vast majority of their day, and it is our view that any child who's spending that amount of time with anybody should be with somebody who understands their autism. It's very clear from our comments from our parents. Autism NI receives over 5,000 phone calls a year through our helpline, and the vast majority of those helpline calls are about education and about the lack of support in the classroom, and it's more to do with the lack of understanding. I just want to say that this has nothing to do with any sort of perceived teacher feelings. We know that the teachers are doing a fantastic job with very limited resources. It's about getting those teachers the right resources and the right training to be able to understand those children better, because we believe that all children, especially children with autism, deserve the best educational outcomes.
So the emphasis is on changing the system, not the teachers? Those
teachers do a fantastic job, as I said, and a lot of our parents would say exactly the same thing, but they do need to understand what autism is. And autism is very complex, but the vast majority of our children, 78%, are actually in mainstream classrooms. They're not in special schools, and therefore in those mainstream classrooms those teachers need to be able to work with that child and need to be able to support them so that they can get the best out of their school life.
And it'll be beneficial not just to the teachers and the children with autism, but all kids in the classroom as well would benefit, wouldn't they?
Of course, all children, they're in the same class as other kids too, and obviously those children are wanting to know why that particular child with autism is behaving in a certain way, and they're not understanding it. And I think this campaign, yes, it's about teacher training and about giving those children the best education, but it's also about a culture change, and I think it starts within the classroom. Those children are the future, and the other children in the classroom are the future too, and they need to understand what autism is, because they're going to be the adults in society. They're going to be the ones supporting other adults with autism, and I think it's really important that within the school it starts there.
How will this teacher training, how will that affect a child's life throughout their education? What difference will that make to have
I think they'll get more understanding, better support. Things, how it can affect a child in a classroom would be things like the bell going off at the end of the class, and a teacher and everyone can relate to this back whenever you were at school, that whenever the bell went and the teacher starts explaining the homework, and everyone's moving chairs, packing up for the next class, to a child with autism, that would be really, really overwhelming. They wouldn't hear what's happening, they wouldn't be able to think what's happening next, and then they might go home at the end of the day and take, as we would call it, a meltdown, because they haven't understood what the homework is. So very simple things like putting the homework up at the start of the day on the board, so everyone's clear about what they have to do for the following day, instead of trying to explain it whenever there's various environmental things going on, such as sensory issues and noise at the end of the class. It's very, very simple things. And also the likes of a quiet room, having that available for children with autism too, where during lunch and break times they can go and have a bit of time on their own and just relax and calm themselves for the next lesson. But I actually think things like quiet rooms would help other children too. Other children have anxiety and things going on too. So it's really very simple measures, but if you don't know to do those, then you don't know to do them. So this is all about very reasonable adjustments that every school can make.
Now we're going to have to touch on the controversy from the debate as the largest teachers' union, NASUWT. I'm just going to read out, they were hitting out at proposals by MLAs to introduce mandatory autism training for teachers and classroom assistants by suggesting MLAs have misrepresented the unions. What would your response to that be, Kerry?
Well, my response would be every single teacher that I've spoken to in the past number of years have all been very supportive of this, and I'm totally at a loss as to why they wouldn't be in support of it. They're talking about resources and that, and we know that special educational needs are under-resourced, and that is an issue, but this is a separate issue. This is about mandatory autism training to make their lives easier, not to make it harder. And as I said, we have a helpline that takes over 5,000 calls. A lot of those calls are from parents, but there's a significant amount from teachers too. And they're the ones that are phoning us, asking us for visual resources for help with their children in the class. They also, a lot of teachers have came to Autism NI for specific training themselves in their own time and paid for it themselves. And that's not on, that a teacher has to do that in their own time. They're trying to better themselves. Teaching is a vocation, and a teacher does it because they love educating children. And I can't see how these trade unions say that those teachers wouldn't want this training, because everyone that I've spoken to, all the teachers have said they do.
I mean, one of the issues that did come up from the debate was how would it be funded and what will the training entail? Can you shed any light on that at all?
Well, the Department for Education and the Minister for Education will obviously consult on this, and he will be consulting the trade unions and teachers and parents and obviously autistic adults, most importantly. He said during the debate he will find funding for this, so it's up to the Department of Education to find funding for it. They know it's a huge issue, and I have met with Minister Weir over the past number of years while the Assembly was down too, so he fully knows the issues that there are. So I am confident that he'll go through with this and he will find the funding for it.
So 3 years, it's all come to a head. What's the future looking like now for Autism NI? What's next with this as well?
Well, the next thing that we want to look at is early intervention, and obviously the diagnosis waiting times are still sky high. Some children are still waiting 18 months to get a diagnosis, and early intervention throughout the trust areas varies from trust to trust, and that needs to be sorted. The most important thing a child with autism can receive straight after diagnosis is early intervention. So that will be the next thing on the lobby, but also adult services too. There's so many adults coming through now, and adult services are very scarce, so that's another issue.
And it's the 30th anniversary for Autism NI as well?
Yes, it is. We were obviously set up in 1990, so this year we're celebrating our 30th year, and there's been so much achieved from the charity over the number of years. Obviously we got the Autism Act back in 2011, and last week we've got the mandatory autism training for teachers. So there's lots to celebrate, and the charity has expanded over the years, but we know that there's lots to be done too. So we'll be celebrating this year. We have a gala ball in October in the Europa, so we're looking forward to that and to celebrating with our parents and volunteers.
Kerry, thank you so much for coming in, and congratulations again.
Thank you.